I think it's the most expensive disease to take care of because of the progressiveness and how it just keeps building the care needs and how long the journey can be. It is just one of the most expensive journeys.
And what I find interesting is I've talked to one of the individuals, in this space who's very well respected, very well known, and they were hired by a family and they flew to their city and they were hired to, to help me make this decision of which facility to put them in. And they're saying that they went to this very, very expensive facility and they were appalled because didn't matter how much you're paying, they were still putting you in a chair. They were trying to feed the individuals, removing the autonomy of the people with the dementia. And they're telling me a story. I'm mind blown about the fact that, we have these wonderfully expensive facilities. We expect a superior level of care, but that's not always the case.
No.
Instead, sometimes the less expensive facilities, because the staff is just, giving it their all. I'm not saying the other ones don't, but
Right.
they're going above and beyond. You sometimes see that better level of care than in these facilities where you're paying $10,000 a
Yep.
month, whatever it is.
Yep. It's heartbreaking. The staff makes everything. And it says a lot when I go to places and their staff has been there years and years and years. I went to a place in Memphis. I don't think anyone on the care staff was under 10 years of being there.
Wow.
And that's huge. I was like, that's your selling point right there. Like, that's everything. Because the turnover is, even just for executive directors, I think the turnover is 3 years is like the normal. And that's not a lot. But for care staff, I mean, the turnover, at least during COVID, oh my gosh, I would just learn their names and they were gone. Or they
Home
would go
care is
through
just as bad.
training, their one day of training, watching videos, they get on the floor, someone's agitated, and they're out. And then you start over and get a new person because the training isn't there. So they lose people too. But you're right. I mean, it's unfortunate just because something is pretty does not mean it's going to be good care. Unfortunately, I hate to see when budget goes more to making the bushes outside look good than the education of your staff is second to that. It just blows my mind what money is put into at certain places when it should be the education, the support for their staff and their families. And we have to be changing um, how people are brought into the care world and how they're taught, because that is their basis, right? And if you come in and you're under a manager who doesn't really care about person-centered care, doesn't and is just heads in beds, because I worked for a woman like that. And that was my first job out of um, college, and she almost drove me out of the industry completely. She was so heartbreaking for me to be under, and it took away a lot of the like hope and all the things that I thought senior living was. And I'm so glad I didn't stop and I had other wonderful experiences after. But you can be, management and your team is everything.
I mean, so we started this company with the idea of we want to build a dementia village where I live. That's what it's called, BlueBell Village,
Yeah.
at
It's
least the newest part.
amazing.
What was interesting in that was that when we were talking to investors and we were talking to, banks and people that had land, all these kind of things, the question was always prefaced around what's the return on investment per bed? How much are you going to make per head? What's the capacity percentage? How much do we need to be fully occupied to be sustainable? And totally fair economic questions, but they underpin a paradigm shift for what the actual focus was, right? Was not focused on let's just make as much money for per person per bed as possible. But that's what the models are shifted on. I mean, James is a great example of that, where the objective is not to make as much money per bed as possible. It's to make as much good per person as possible.
Exactly.
And the system is fundamentally flipped.
Yes. It doesn't compute that like sales mindset in this industry. These are people's lives, and this is people's livelihood and living their best life. And I love that you're on this mission because I do see this wave of these villages, and I think that's how we should be living. I think that's community care. I think that's how I would want to live in the future. Yeah, no, it can be really heartbreaking sometimes when you hear those comments back and you're like, can't we look at the bigger picture here? Like, I've had to kind of, spin it, unfortunately, and say, if your training is better and your engagement's better, people live longer and they have to pay you rent longer. I was like, is that what you need to hear? That it's worth having tech that helps people live happy lives? Because if they live longer, you'll get more paychecks. Like, if that's the only motivator for you to do, if that's where I have to go, that's where I'll go. But it's true. So give them, what they deserve, and you're going to have happy, longer living people.
No matter where you're watching the Dementia Collective from, if you get anything from this at all, anything, please like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, head to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave us a 5-star review.